US President Joe Biden has given WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange and his supporters the biggest sign of hope he may yet be freed. During talks with Japan's Prime Minister at the White House, President Biden said his administration is working through a request from Australia to drop its prosecution of Julian Assange. Take a listen.
Do you have a response to Australia's request that you end Julian Assange's prosecution?
We're considering it.
Joining us now is political analyst from Curtin University, Professor Joe Siracusa. Joe, great to be with you. Thank you for joining us on Power Hour. How likely is it that Julian Assange will be freed?
Good morning. I think there's a pretty good chance here. I mean, the Australian government has had a motion last February to let Julian Assange come home, as a matter of fact. And I think Assange's nightmare is just about over. I knew someone like Assange back in the day. Actually, I even knew Assange a little bit when he was on one of our screens in Melbourne when I was at RMIT. And this was Daniel Ellsberg, who was considered by Henry Kissinger and Richard Nixon as public enemy #1 because he was releasing information the government did not want. Julian Assange, he as a WikiLeaks founder, he orchestrated all kinds of things, and his batch, I think, in 2010, 2011, actually documented war crimes. Now, in a war, I don't know actually what a war crime is. When you start killing people for political motives, everything looks like a war crime. But he actually showed American helicopters gunning down a couple of Reuters correspondents. You know, he had all kinds of stuff. And so he was charged with 17 counts of espionage, which is one of those laws that was concocted during the First World War, and one charge or one indictment of sort of getting Chelsea Manning to hack a computer. Now, look, Assange is sort of started out as an information vigilante. He wanted, the truth to be exposed. The only trouble is that he released it at the wrong time. During the War on Terror, there was no tolerance for someone like him. A lot of people, including Hillary Clinton, wanted to throw him in security prison. And of course, he's been in prison. He's been in Belmarsh prison for 5 years. He was holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy in in London, which must be a prison all by itself, as a matter of fact. And, he's probably broken in many respects. But look, there's enough sympathy in Australia to let him come home the same way John Howard organized the route home for David Hicks, et cetera. So I think it's about time to let Julian Assange come home. He has purged contempt for whatever he did. But I'll tell you what, he was very brave when he did it. The only trouble is he thought he was a rock star, and he thought he was invincible. And when the American government goes gunning for you, you're not invincible. I mean, they're going to get you one way or the other, and they nearly got him.
What are your memories of Julian Assange from when you knew him?
Well, I hired a young man who was a good friend of his at RMIT, and so we had Julian Assange on Skype. 500 students showed up to talk to him, et cetera, et cetera. And he was very earnest. He struck me as slightly naive. When he got caught up in Sweden and other places, he stayed at people's houses when he shouldn't have. He should have just gone to a hotel. Anyway, he came off as fairly naive. And I asked him the opening question in my capacity those days as deputy dean. I said to him, look, Chelsea Manning's just gotten 35 years prison sentence. And, what do you make of that? And he made it very clear to me in the audience that his deal with Manning was between him and Manning, and that Manning had told someone else, a third party, who then notified the FBI, and then that's how Manning got caught. He said the deal's a deal, and he was quite cavalier about throwing Manning under the bus. I think 35 years for passing on public information, that is information the public may deserve or may not deserve, is very harsh. But he was very cold. He's a very cold character. And, the trouble is while he is a journalist in a way, the idea of going after him and not going after the Guardian or the New York Times or the other people that published his work is ridiculous to me. They're trying to say that, he is the one who has committed espionage, whereas the newspapers he gave stuff to are under freedom of information, of course, are under expression of whatever they want under the First Amendment. The problem with Julian is he's gone to America as an Australian citizen, and his lawyers reckon he might not be given certain rights that Americans would normally expect. But I'll tell you what, the Biden administration, Gabriella, aren't doing Australia or Julian Assange any favors here. They're doing themselves a favor, because that trial, which would have all these top experts on his side, would show that America committed war crimes in Iraq and various other places, and that we broke all the rules. And of course, that's what nations do, is when they're at war, they break all the rules. So and right now the Biden administration doesn't want to look on a screen and see American helicopters killing Reuters correspondents without any warning or things like that. They don't want this because they're trying to dodge the very bad shadow that's coming out of Gaza. I mean, they're trying to distance themselves from what they see to be Netanyahu's war crimes, or whatever they are, and so they don't want this focus right now. And so I think Biden would do himself a favor. He may even owe Australia a favor or two along the way. But I don't think the American government needs Julian Assange in a courtroom with his lawyers explaining that he had done important work. I just think they don't need that right now.